everybody. Well, we're here getting ready for the sugar beet harvest, and we always come in early, which is a good thing because it gives us a chance to prep for the actual harvest days so that we don't have too much to do around here on our work days. We can just focus on going and working and coming home and going to bed, because that's really all you want to do. And one of the things I like to do is make a whole bunch of meals ahead of time and freeze them so that when we leave in the morning, we pick what we want out of the freezer, throw it in the sink and let it defrost during the day. Then when we get home at night after working 12, 13 hours, we just take it, plop it on a plate, microwave it for 2 minutes, and boom, you've got a hot meal, and you don't have to cook and you don't have a lot of dishes to clean up. Works out really well. So today is a cooking day, and I thought I'd share what I'm making with all of you. And we're going to do 2 recipes using my crock pot a lot this year. And trying to decide what to make. The last couple of years I've done pasta dishes, I've done Chinese food dishes, and I found that the rice in the Chinese dishes and the pasta in the pasta dishes just is really dry and gross after freezing it. It just wasn't very tasty. So this year I decided to just stick with things that froze and reheated really well. And the first one's going to be chicken tortilla soup, and the second one's going to be Tater Tot Casserole. And then I'm also doing a loaded baked potato soup, and then I'm thinking about maybe making a pot of spaghetti sauce and just freezing the sauce, and right before we start harvest, maybe cooking the noodles and putting them in a Ziploc bag in the fridge and eating off of that maybe the first couple of days, and that way we don't have to freeze it. We'll see. But anyways, I'm not a chef by any stretch of the imagination. The things I make, they're easy, they're hearty, they taste good. And so let me show you what we've got. So this is everything you need for the chicken tortilla soup. There's a jalapeno, an onion, your shredded chicken, chicken broth, chili powder, red pepper, crushed tomatoes, diced tomatoes with green chilies, a can of corn, and I'm using 2 of these cans of black beans. And for the shredded chicken, I've already made it and shredded it, but what I do is I buy one of those packs at Walmart that's got 6 or 7 boneless, skinless chicken breasts, trim them, cook them in the Instant Pot, steam them for pressure cook them for about 20 minutes, and then let them cool. Throw them in a Ziploc bag and just mash them up. It's almost as satisfying as bubble wrap. And then the chicken just falls apart and shreds really easily. All right, so now we're just going to add all these ingredients into the crock pot. So we'll start by dumping the chicken in there. One of those big packages of chicken makes 2 recipes of this soup. And then our broth. Our crushed tomatoes. And this is a 28-ounce can. The diced tomatoes with chilies. That's a 14.5-ounce can. I have a 15-ounce can of corn, drained. Two 15.5-ounce cans of black beans, or you can just use one of the big ones. Our chopped onion. Our chopped jalapeno with seeds. And then a little bit of chili powder. I'm bad at measuring. I just take and just kind of to taste. You would probably use a tablespoon or so of that in there. and then just a little bit of cayenne pepper. And of course you can always adjust this to taste depending on how you are with spicy foods. Maybe just a teaspoon or so of cayenne. And you can leave it out entirely if you don't like spicy foods. Also with the jalapeno, that's the seeds that have the heat. So you could de-seed it and just put in the pepper, or you could replace it with like a bell pepper if you don't want that spiciness. As this is made, it comes out pretty spicy. And we're just going to stir it up and cover it and let it go for the better part of the afternoon, about 5 hours or so. Now with the chicken cooked, you probably could put it in a pot on the stove and just simmer it for half an hour to an hour. I like to do it in the crock pot all day because it really lets the flavors all blend together. You get, I think, softer vegetables, and you get a more blended flavor when you let it just slow cook all day. So we're going to let that go. And we'll come back and check on that later this afternoon. All right, so now that we have the chicken tortilla soup going, we're going to move on to the tater tot casserole. And the ingredients for this are super simple. Here's what they are. So we have a medium brown onion we're going to chop up, a pound of ground beef. This is what ground beef looks like when it's homegrown. This is courtesy of Bubba's brother Bob and his cows at his cattle ranch. Nice, good grass-fed beef. A bag of tater tots, and 2 cans of cream of mushroom soup. All right, so now we're going to brown the ground beef. That's the first step. Over medium heat. Y'all know how to brown ground beef. And then I always put a little garlic salt on it for flavor. Depending on how you like the onions, you can add them now and cook them with the beef. Or what I like to do is add them when I mix in the soup after the beef is cooked, because you're still going to bake it in the oven for a little bit and they will cook that way. So while we're waiting for the beef to cook, I've got the oven preheating at 350 degrees. And when everything's mixed together, it's going to go in, it's going to cook in there for about 20 minutes or so. So it's nice to have the oven preheated, ready to go, so once everything's mixed up, you can just pop it right in there. The beef looks nice and done now. You'll probably want to go ahead and drain it. Any fat that you have in it, drain out. That's the one nice thing about this grass-fed beef, is when it's done cooking, there's really nothing to drain off of it. Now let's go ahead and mix it up in the pan. So I like to mix this up right in the pan. Why dirty more dishes than you need to, right? Dump in my onions. Two cans of cream of mushroom soup. And mix it well until it's all blended together nicely. So now we're going to use a 9x13 pan to put all of this in. I'll put about 2/3 of the bag of tater tots on the bottom. Spread them out evenly. Then you take your mixture, your beef mixture here, and just pour it on top. And spread it out evenly in the pan. Then take the rest of your tater tots, dump them on top, Spread them out evenly. And it's ready to go in the oven. You can cover it with shredded cheese if you want before it goes in. Sometimes that gives it a nice flavor. Bubba's not a cheese eater, so we leave it off. And then if I want cheese, I add it later. So we're gonna let that cook now for 20 to 25 minutes. It just has to cook long enough to cook the tater tots. And if you want to shorten the cooking time, you can pre-cook your tater tots and then mix everything up in your pan and then just bake it like to melt your cheese or just to make sure that the soup that you mixed in gets heated through. For me, it's easier to just go ahead and toss it in there, let it bake 20 to 25 minutes, and then we're done. So we'll check back on that in a little bit. All right, let's check on our tater tot casserole. It should be done. So you want to just check and make sure your tater tots are cooked through. That's pretty much when you know it's done. Never hurts to take one, let it cool, and sample it, right? And then I'm just going to leave it on the cutting board and let it cool thoroughly. And then it's going to get put into plastic Ziploc bags and put in the freezer for later, for once we start the harvest. And I'll show you what those look like. So when it's all done, I have these Ziploc bags. I take and I flatten them out as much as I can so that they stack nicely in the freezer and take up as little space as possible. When I get done with all of my cooking, I'll have 32 of these. So that's 16 days worth of meals. And for traditionally the last 2 years, the harvest has lasted 16 working days. And then we always have Pizza Hut is literally right out the back door. There's a Subway down the street, so we can always take a couple of nights and do those things too if we want something just a little bit different. But this is going to get us through the beet harvest without having to do any cooking, which is awesome. I'm going to put both of these recipes on our blog. I'll link that in the comments below, or in the description below. So if you want to make one of these recipes and you want to actually see a recipe, I'll go ahead and put them there for you to find. And that's that. We're ready to eat.